Welcome to Base to Base Military Homeschooling, the podcast sponsored by Military Homeschoolers Association. It is designed specifically for military homeschoolers navigating the unique challenges of educating our children while moving to new communities every 2 to 3 years. I'm your host, Natalie Mack, and I know firsthand the challenges and rewards of homeschooling while on the move. So, where in the large world of military homeschooling are we today? Listen in to our incredible guest. Hello, everyone. I am excited to be here. I am Natalie Mack, founder of Military Homeschoolers Association. And today we have a very special live episode of Base to Base Military Homeschooling. We're sitting down with Ashley Barta and Dr. Amy Moore. Ashley, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh gosh, you always throw me off the right in.
Awesome, Ashley. Tell us.
This is why I love you, Natalie. My name is Ashley Barta. Like Natalie had said, I am a homeschooling mom of 2, soon to be 3 homeschoolers. He counts. He's one.
It's gonna be a while before that third one, though.
I am the special education director here at MHA, and I've been homeschooling, for way too many years, over 10 years, and I love what I do. I'm an ex-public school teacher and wonderful homeschooling mom.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to be here.
And so the reason I said it's going to be a while for the third one, as she referenced homeschooling, is because that third one is how old, Ashley?
He's 1. We like to start them young in homeschooling, though.
Yeah, right.
We started as soon as they can talk. They're baking cookies with us and
infant sign language. You can start that now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So that's so cute. He's adorable. So Dr. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a cognitive psychologist and child development specialist, board certified Christian counselor, and parent educator. I'm the director of psychology and research at LearningRx World Headquarters in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was a teacher before I was a psychologist, and I have about a decade of experience in military child development and youth programs, again, before becoming a psychologist. But I'm married to the amazing Jeff Moore. He's a retired Air Force fighter pilot, and we have 3 grown sons. So I'm a little bit older. We've already been through the education process. One of whom who went through traditional public education his entire education career and sailed right through, and then 2 who experienced a variety of schooling combinations, including homeschooling, unschooling, and online schooling, in addition to private and public school. We just were working on what worked for them at each stage of their lives. So
I love that. There's a nugget there, a couple of nuggets, but the nugget that stood out as you were saying that is, what worked for them, right, at different stages of their lives. And that's super important. I mean, obviously, we are an organization that is, military homeschooling. So we are pro homeschooling. But at the same time, I think the bigger thing is being there for our kids and finding what actually do they need during the different stages of their life. And I know we've talked about that before, so I really like to hear your story. So thanks for sharing that, because I'm sure it resonates with our listeners too, because not everyone is, what I call like a long haul homeschooler, or not for all the children. So you have to make those choices. So I shout you out for doing that. And so our episode today, making sure that our audience and our replay or recording watchers understands the topic today is back together, moving forward. So you're back together after deployments and other things that military life causes separations, right? Could be geo bachelor assignments. We've done those before, at least one. I don't like it, but we did it. So our title then is that back together, moving forward, Reintegration Challenges and Solutions for Military Families. And this is what we'll be talking about today. Very important for us as military families because we are often going through many separations, right? And someone is holding down the fort and experiencing all the things, and whether they want to or not, right? From, car breaking down and all the things, to just that reality of the loved one who has been away from family coming back in and having to figure out, okay, where did you move, the certain food articles, or how are we doing this now? Because when I left, this is what we were doing. So I'm excited to talk about it. So Dr. Amy, let's start off with you, please. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background as working with special needs and neurodiverse learners? Like specifically, like what has your experience been supporting, military connected students?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a cognitive psychologist, my specialization is in ADHD, but I have worked with kids of all ages with a variety of learning struggles, whether it was a formal learning disability or simply a struggle where we were looking at just an instructional gap or delayed development, but not an actual diagnosable disability. So I've run the gamut. From providing direct interventions to coaching parents on what to look for and how to holistically intervene. So looking at sleep and nutrition and physical activity and, cognition, and not just, okay, what's a formal intervention specific to a learning disability look like?
Got it. That's super important, right? Those are the nuanced areas, right, that can really cause things that a diagnosis to really be felt more, in a harder way. So just getting good night's rest is super, super key. So, and you've worked with military connected students in your career, right?
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
you all are military, your family, right?
Right. So we are a military family, and all three of my children had a variety of, I like to say alphabet soup after their names, right? A variety of diagnoses. So we understood that struggle as parents. I'm also a neurodivergent learner. I have a wicked case of ADHD, and so I know what it feels like to have a neurodivergent brain. But yeah, I worked for child development and youth programs for 10 years, Air Force programs. So I've seen it all.
Yeah, definitely. So I love that. A wicked case of ADHD. Some days I feel like I need to go and get diagnosed because, I'm like, do I have ADHD? Like sometimes. So, and a lot of people get diagnosed as adults. So maybe it is there. So I love that though.
Yeah. Well, I was in college, so
Yeah. See, yeah, exactly.
that was
Yeah.
adulthood. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So deployment is high up there on the stressor. Like, there's this stress list of things that are life experiences that cause us to really struggle, right? And I know, like, as a former licensed counselor, a lot of times I would use the analogy of like, the riverbank, and for the most part, life is just below the riverbank, but it feels normal and it feels okay, but it doesn't take much of rain to take you up above. And so deployment's one of those things that it's really highly stressful for most people. I don't know anyone who loves deployments, but we deal with it as military families. And so in terms of the families that have special needs children, how does that uniquely affect them, generalizing, of course?
Sure. So as you said, deployments are stressful for anyone, right? Special needs or not. But the difference is that children with special needs or learning struggles live in a state of chronic stress. And so they already have this heightened level of stress, this increased level of cortisol that's coursing through their veins. And it doesn't take very much to tip them over into that fight, flight, or freeze response. And so we have to be especially aware of that phenomenon that's happening in children who have struggles, because a lot of times we see emotion dysregulation that is bigger and louder and bolder in children with special needs. And so just a little bit of stress can tip them into a full face down in the carpet meltdown. And so, when we think about deployment, that is grief and loss, right? It's grieving the presence of the parent who is gone. It's loss of stability. It's loss of our typical routines and interactions. And so you multiply that by that chronic stress struggle, right, of having a special need in a neurodivergent child, and arguably a neurodivergent parent, because it's about 70% of kids with a neurodivergent diagnosis have a neurodivergent parent who also then have heightened emotional responses. And that's a recipe for a whole lot of big emotions.
Yeah, definitely. It's a what is it? Molotov cocktail, almost like,
Molotov cocktail.
right? Yeah, definitely. So just in general too, with our families, within the military lifestyle and undergoing so many changes and stressors and adaptations, adjustments, all the things that are highly stressful. So during deployment, what are some of the challenges and stressors during that reintegration? Like, a loved one has deployed, and we know, like for us as Navy, and I assume for most is this period before deployment, we call them workups, where life starts to kind of change already, right? First you hear someone's, your loved one's deploying, and you get, and then the workup time, which is almost like a deployment because they're gone getting ready for the deployment, and that's stressful, but they are in and out more. And then the deployment, they're gone. So now you have on the other side, you're excited because the loved one's coming home, right? Reintegration. But those are stressful times, right? I know of a lot of families, a lot of arguments, a lot of just, it's a honeymoon phase, but it's short, right? So what are some of the stressors that you have that you would imagine or what you've worked with in terms of that reintegration for both not only the deployed parent, but the person that's at home?
Yeah. So a lot can change during a deployment, particularly over those long deployments. And so young children are growing and changing, not only physically, but emotionally and cognitively. And so this might be a child that the returning parent barely recognizes again, right? Like they've changed so much. And so that returning parent has to get used to, all right, what does communication and relating look like with my child or children who are now at all different developmental stages, right? The spouse who has remained at home probably has gained some additional independence, has taken over every responsibility in the home and has this full control over everything. And so now it's about, how do I relinquish some of that control? Hey, I actually liked being in charge of A, B, and C. I don't want to give that up again, right? And then I think one of the biggest things, a phenomenon that I've seen again and again and again, is that we don't manage our expectations about what's going to happen in terms of needing a break. So the military member is returning home, ops tempo high, right? They've been working 16, 18-hour days. They're exhausted. They're ready to decompress and relax and have some downtime. But the stay-at-home parent is exhausted, especially if they're homeschooling, especially if they're homeschooling special needs kids. They're probably on the tipping point of burnout. So they're tired from being on 24/7 and they're ready for a break, right? So they're both thinking, okay, as we come back together, I'm going to get a break. Right? And the reality is, parents don't get that kind of break, right?
Right.
And here's where it starts to fall apart and the wheels fall off the bus. We start sharing this frustration. Well, I've been doing all of this and I need a break, and this child has been driving me crazy and I can't do it anymore. And the child hears it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so then that builds this guilt and this shame,
yes.
and this identity issue, right? Like, oh no, I'm responsible for my
Right.
parents'
Mm,
misery and
mm,
stress and
mm,
burnout, right?
mm,
And then that, again, we're talking about some
mm,
kids with special needs who are
mm,
already at this tipping point of fight or flight, right?
mm,
And now we've created an even bigger problem.
a bigger problem.
Yeah, because we
Wow.
haven't been sensitive to, okay, we didn't manage our own expectations. We didn't communicate
Right.
effectively about what return looks like and the breaks that we're going to give each other. We didn't communicate about that ahead of time or
Right. Right.
during, and we're not paying attention to what our kids are hearing, and our
Yeah.
emotions are contagious.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh. Okay. So many nuggets again. So I'm thinking, first off, is so much of this is unintentional, right? Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Like
Absolutely.
parents don't want this to be the outcome that a child or children hear this discord and fussing and all, when it's supposed to be a happy time of reunification, right? So, but it's all just the upfront conversation about talking about expectations, right? Like,
Yep.
how is this going to look? We want you back home, clearly, but like how is this going to look? And so that's amazing, because you're right. And these homeschool kids are homeschooled, right? So they are hearing these discussions that aren't going so well. So Ashley, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you've worked with families, and you've experienced with the military life too, right? Like,
I
wow.
think that is preparing for that, the communication, and not just communicating with your spouse, but preparing those kiddos at home. We just went through a year-long deployment 3 years ago, and a big thing for us was creating visual schedules and showing that we didn't have much longer, or dad is coming home, and then sometimes you don't know that date either until
Right.
the week of. So you have to keep it, for some that want that rigid date system, that can cause stress as well, because you just don't know. And in those cases, I would even recommend just doing a month. Like, we've made it through another month, we've made it through another week. Also, getting to FaceTime and to say, having not just the stateside, the at-home parent tell them, that
Right.
dad's at work or mom's at work and mom's coming home or dad's coming home,
Right.
having them on the camera saying, dad's at work, dad's coming home, don't forget, those types of things. And I think sometimes in the military, you're thinking, oh, we give it this daddy doll, and some of those
Yeah.
things that the military does. And while those things are great when you have a neurodivergent thinker, some of them are very concrete, and they're like, this isn't my dad. This is a
Right.
stuffed animal. I don't know what you're talking about. And I
Right.
think there's gotta be different ways to prepare and to communicate. For us, because we have a child with using an AAC talking device, putting specific vocabulary on that talking device to express, and then talking about those words really helps. I think it's like Dr. Amy has said. I mean, it's realizing that there's little things in there with emotions, and if you can communicate those emotions, some of those big emotions kind of fizzle out before the big explosion. Does
Before the big,
does
yeah.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes, yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
to normalize talking about those emotions, right? Like,
Right.
Yes.
and there's this strange balance that we walk, that we don't want to fall apart in front of our kids while our
Right.
spouse is deployed.
Yeah.
We don't want to fall apart when we talk to our spouse while they're deployed, right? That was some of the best advice I ever got when I first married my husband. Don't fall apart when you talk to him, because that risks his safety and his life. He's got to be mission focused,
Right.
right? So you can say, I miss you, I love you, but don't fall apart. So we
Yeah.
don't want to fall apart in front of our children either, because then that scares our children. That makes it look like, hey, my parent can't handle this.
Right.
I'm not safe,
Right.
right? So we want to be able to honor their emotions and honor our emotions by giving them language and sharing the language. In fact, something beautiful happens in the brain when we name what we're feeling. It actually pulls us out of the amygdala, it pulls us out of the emotion center of the brain and puts us in the language area of the brain, that helps lower the temperature on that big emotion, that big emotional response. So I think it's important to normalize talking about emotions while being sensitive, that we don't want to burden our child with emotions, and we don't want to burden our deployed spouse with emotions, big emotions.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's really good. Because I imagine a child is, you're the only parent there, right? And if you are melting down, without there being an understanding and communication to the child, like, it's okay to melt down. It's just when it's not communicated and you don't help the child say, this is normal to have different emotions, but I'm okay, right? Just kind of, because that's the other piece, is you want them to see that you're human and that you may be struggling, because they may think, oh, mom seems like totally happy and things are great. She must not miss dad or must not miss mom, for the families that, or, the spouse is a female that's deployed. So just struggling through that and figuring out, and it's all about that communication right up front. It's like, wow, let's think about all the parts of this whole piece. It's not just the actual act of deployment. It's all of the little perimeter things that create the problem more than anything, I think.
Well, and the best laid plans, right? I mean, so we can say, all right, we're going to communicate about this. We're going to have a plan, right? We're going to make sure that we're managing our expectations. And the reality is, right, we have a flat tire, the washing machine breaks, right? The pipe blows, whatever, right? It all comes in threes.
Yeah.
And we end up having a meltdown. And so then we have to go, oh, wait a minute. My child is watching this. So now my child recognizes that I'm having a big emotional moment. Now my child needs to see that I have the capacity to work through that, and that they're safe, we're safe. And so then we have to verbalize that. We have to say, look, mommy's having a really hard time right now. So I'm going to just breathe. Right. I'm going to calm down so that we can problem solve. I have a few problems that we need to solve today. In fact, you can help me think of some solutions when I calm down in just a minute.
Right. Wow. So enabling us to have the tools and to understand when and how to use them, right? And having this discussion about emotions is super important. I don't think we have a lot of discussions about emotions. I think and that probably would solve a lot, at least give a little bit of a foundation for people, definitely. And then children, like different ages, right? And neurodevelopmental profiles, like dealing with the reintegration impacts them differently, right? Based on age and, what their neurodevelopment profile is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think preschoolers might not even recognize a returning parent if we haven't done a thorough job of continuing to share photos and doing video chats when that's possible, and keeping the deployed parent in the front of the mind of the young child, right? And keeping them part of the conversation, right? Like, oh, this was a fantastic activity that we did today. What part of this do you think we should share with daddy tonight? Or, should we take a photograph and send it to him, right? Like, so we have to keep the deployed parent, right, and their image in the front of that child's mind, because they may not recognize them. And even if they do recognize them, they still may feel a little bit like a stranger when they first return, right? And, you've got school agers who they're going to test limits, right? Yeah. They're going to demand your attention and test your limits all at the same time, right? Yeah. They're going to say, oh, I can't wait to tell you about my life. Hey, never mind, I'm mad at you, go away. Yeah. Right? Come back, come over here. Let me share what I've been doing. No, I'm mad at you, go away. Right. And there's this push and pull. right?
Yeah.
That we sometimes see. And then we hit adolescence in the teenage years, and they will act indifferent and aloof because it's their way of saying, I missed you and it hurt. Right. And
Right.
so then we have to be careful not to interpret that as they don't love me, they don't like me, they don't
Yes.
miss me.
Yes. Because then our response can be off too, then, if we
Absolutely.
misinterpret what's going on, and then we just continue to escalate, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's really good. That's really good stuff. So, definitely, I remember, like, gosh, and I'm sure our listeners can remember different times with deployment and reintegration. And one just came to mind. We were at Camp Pendleton many, many years ago, and we had 4 children then. We ended up with 5 eventually, but we had 4 then. And our youngest was barely 2, just had started like walking without falling, but and my husband returned from a deployment, and we were on the airfield and the airstrip, and how they come in and everything. And we're Navy, so it's different for everybody. But he had deployed with the Marines at Camp Pendleton. And so we're all like, the older kids were like, what, 10, 8, 4.5, and then this little toddler. And so they all took off running towards daddy, right? And I just let them go, right? And I knew I would eventually get there, but I was worried about the toddler. The toddler's like running after the siblings just because the siblings were running. Noah, it's his name, didn't know like what was going on. Like you said, the age, he was just running because siblings were running, and toddlers are going to keep up with the siblings, right? And my husband said when Noah got to him, yay high or whatever, and he swooped him up, he said he felt Noah's whole body just kind of quivered, like, who are you? Like, literally. And it broke his heart. Like, he was like, oh my gosh, So, and I know this is not only my story, like there's some version of that, of how hard it is with the reintegration when people are so excited, but at the same time, these young kids who, like you said, be based on age or maybe neurodiversity, just are struggling to figure out like what the heck is going on and who is this person? Clearly somebody important, right? So,
But do
wow.
you feel, Natalie, though, like because we homeschool, we can, safely express a lot of those emotions and safely talk about it versus sending the kids to school to try to regulate those big emotions outside of the home?
I think we have the time flexibility to do it. I don't know if we all realize the importance of it. And that's why I love this conversation. And I hope more families can hear it, because I think in order to know what to expect, you have to kind of have a little bit of an education about what could happen and how do you want things to be? How do you want things to roll out? Like, everyone prepares for the reintegration with, the balloons and the parties and all of that, which is great, clearly. But like, it's the after, when you're back home and the quiet time and things start to like grate at you and grate at your spouse, I think, and the kids. So I think that the homeschooling definitely gives us the opportunity to have more, discussions and more time to have discussions. We just need to know to do it. We just need to know to do it. So yeah. So, I mean, it does put us in, I think, personally, a better position to be successful with it. So yeah.
Well, I think too, though, you have to honor your own emotions. And so many times, see this so often with homeschooling parents. They want to get it right, and they're so afraid of failing, and they're so afraid that if I take a break to honor what's happening to me right now, then, my curriculum is going to fall by the wayside today, right? And then I'm going to be a failure, not only as a mom, but as a homeschooling parent too, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to recognize that is a part of social emotional development and facilitating that for our kids. And that's okay, right? To be able to take those moments to honor what we're feeling as well.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. We got to get through the curriculum, right? We got to get to that 75% of the textbook. We got to get it done, right? And but you really have time. You really have time. And the important thing is the conversations that, like Ashley mentioned, right? Being able to process it. So Ashley, did you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the academic reintegration, like what that's supposed to look like?
I think that's we were just kind of talking about that
Mhm. Right.
is part of homeschoolers.
Mhm.
We can go down that railroad track of we just have to get the curriculum done. We have to
Mhm.
keep on track, lesson a day. We have to finish this textbook before the end of the year. And Dr. Amy can speak on this as well. But I think honoring those emotions and those feelings to give
Mhm.
ourselves the breaks, build in some of those breaks, I think, in your curriculum.
Mhm.
Maybe do some Christmas school because dad's gone and we're home and we don't have, a lot of traveling to do, and we have the time to do school because dad's coming home in April and we want to take the whole month off, or
Mhm.
to go visit family or to do those types of things.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, Dr. Amy, what do you think would maybe be some of the things for
Mhm.
moms, dads to look for as far as maybe some academic regression or some distraction? Like, how do you tell,
Mhm.
or what would you maybe do in that case?
Yeah. I mean, so when we think about academic regression or learning loss, like we really typically associate that with large breaks, right? So we think, oh my gosh, if we don't do any academics over the summer, then we're going to
Mhm.
lose 30% of what we, learned by the end of the last school year. And there's some truth to that for sure.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we have to keep our brains engaged year round in some way, so that we do help prevent that learning loss and that academic regression.
Mhm.
But the reality is, when we're talking about deployments and reintegration after deployments, and actually even the workup, right, the leading up and the anxiety that we feel as we're waiting for a parent to leave,
Mhm.
um, that that emotion that we're feeling can also impact how well we're performing academically as a child, right? So we will see some learning loss in some kids. We will see some regression. We will see some inability to engage academically, to pay fully attention, because we are. So I'll loosely say this and then I'll explain it neurologically. So we are distracted by our emotions, but what's really happening is when we are in fight, flight, or freeze, right? When we are having a heightened emotional response to a stressful situation,
Mhm.
our amygdala hijacks our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for reasoning and thinking and processing. And so we can't learn. In fact, we can't even process language when we're in a fight or flight state. It's called auditory exclusion. And so we can't hear that our parent is even talking to us.
Mhm.
So we have to recognize that what might look like learning loss is really just emotion dysregulation that we need to address.
Mhm.
And that might look like taking a break to reset. It might look like taking a break just for connection, right? Recognizing that, hey, this next week or so, maybe the engagement that we do for our brains looks more like playing educational games together rather than learning a new calculus lesson, because it's a push-pull with emotions and cognition, right? And if we've got a kid who already has deficits cognitively, like they have working memory deficits or processing speed deficits, we're just going to be fighting against that as well. Like, working memory directly impacts emotion regulation. We have to
Mhm.
have strong working memory in order to keep all alternatives in mind at the same time. And we have to have good processing speed in order to act on all of those different alternatives that we're trying to decide amongst.
Mhm.
And so if we have deficits in working memory and processing speed, then that's going to impact our ability to think, learn, and process our emotions.
Mhm. Got you. Got you. Wow. Wow. That's a lot to consider and definitely pull together all of that that's going on, right? And how it all impacts each other. Like, wow, that's good stuff. That's really
It
good.
is.
Yeah. So,
Goodness.
yeah, are there assessments that parents can use at home, like to be able to quickly gauge these learning gaps potentially, or maybe like after the transitions, like deployment, reintegration, like there's those cognitive shifts. So, are there some? How should a parent assess it or observe it? Is there any tools, anything?
Yeah, I love that you said the word observe after saying assessment, because assessment can raise the temperature on emotions as well, right? I mean, that
Right.
seems so formal and so stressful sometimes.
Yeah.
As home educators, your finger is on the pulse of exactly where each child is at any given time, and so it's pretty easy for you to say, you were able to do this 2 weeks ago, and I'm noticing that you're struggling with this today. What do you think is happening? And
Mm-hmm.
so just that kind of that dynamic assessment that's happening all day, every day in the home education setting, really dig into that and trust your knowledge of your
Right.
child, to be able to say, hey, I think something's happening here, but not to panic in that first week or 2 or 3, right? To give it some time, give that reintegration period some time for everything to settle in, and then say, hey, let's try that again. And it
Right.
may mean, hey, I need to go back a unit in this math book. We need to re-look at this language arts lesson, just to remind ourselves what we were doing before mom or dad came home from deployment, right? And so we
Mm-hmm.
say it in a way that's not punitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, let's review this just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it still looks like there's a problem,
Right.
then you might want to consider, okay, what do we need to do differently? Do we need to enlist a professional? Do we need to get some formal testing done? And the other
Mm-hmm.
thing is, if you aren't sure where your child should be, right, like most state education, boards of education, or I'm sorry, Department of Education have objectives for every grade, right? And so just pull that down and review it. And you don't have to use it as a checklist, but you
Yeah.
can just review it and go, hey, in 3rd grade, my child should be able to do A, B, and C.
Yes.
I don't think that I'm seeing that right now. So what do I need to adjust? Right.
Right.
But this is the beautiful part of home education, right? We don't have to panic. Like, we don't have to panic that our child might have fallen behind or hit a plateau during that reintegration period.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Okay. That's really good. That's really good. Then those are some baselines and some tools you can use to really assess, like kind of normatively, like where a child should be, knowing that there's nuances, right, with all of us, unique aspect that could cause us to be a little off, a little, either a little, I hate to use the word delayed, but that's a word that is used, delayed, or a little bit ahead. But homeschooling, again, is the perfect environment to be able to address those. And being quote delayed doesn't mean the same thing. It's not a death sentence. It just means this is an opportunity. We can segue, we can pivot as a homeschooling family to address it and get the help that is needed, right? And so I think that's important for families to know. Just breathe. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just your growth edge, right? It's just
Yeah.
an opportunity for development.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing punitive about that.
Yeah, definitely. And our kids, I think that's an important message for the kids to hear too, right? Because they are looking around and making assessments. And if mom is thinking, and mom and dad are thinking that this is like a death sentence, and then the kid is like, oh gosh, now I'm a problem, or I don't learn right, or I have issues, or anything, like any type of connotation, right? Then that's a whole nother problem, because then we create not only learning challenges, but now we have some potential, mental health concerns that could kind of be triggered by it, probably. So
Yeah,
is
and
good.
and I think that we don't give our children enough credit for knowing what's happening with themselves. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a beautiful gift to be
Yeah.
able to say something like, "Hey, I noticed that you were struggling with this concept for the last couple of days. What do you think might be happening?"
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's
And
good.
and we might get some really good insights, right, from our child who could say, well, my younger brother is making too much noise in the other room, or I'm distracted by, I can't wait until dad comes home because he promised me that we were going to get to do A, B, and C, right? Like,
Right.
so they may have some insights, and then you can troubleshoot that together.
Yeah, I love that. I
Like,
like that.
we don't have to be able to diagnose the problem ourselves. Like, we can
Right.
do it collaboratively.
Yeah, I love that. And bring the child in because they are so usually very all knowing, and they can say, well, they tell us everything else they see, right? They're like, oh, so why not ask them, hey, do you kind of give me a little insight? Do you have any idea what's going on?
Well, and what I've noticed too with many homeschooling parents, we can be perfectionists. And so that's great, but that also models our expectations. And
Right.
so sometimes our kids pick up on that. And
Right.
so then we haven't created an invitation to share a struggle. And
Right.
so by modeling that we're perfectionists,
Right.
then our child picks up on, my mom is a perfectionist, therefore I must be a perfectionist and I can't have a struggle or I can't share a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Exactly.
by creating an invitation to talk about it, we normalize it. And then we're teaching them problem solving skills, which is a
Okay.
life skill.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. These are, man, good. These are nuggets. I would have loved these nuggets, like bring my kids back home so I can get these nuggets and do better, right? They're like, no, we're gone. We already are harmed for life, right? No, just joking.
All right, my kids will be listening and they'll be like, you never did that with us.
Like, what were you saying, Mom? I don't remember that
Right.
happening.
I'm always talking about something that on Instagram or whatever. My kids are like, why is Mom on there talking about constipation when we were 2 years old?
Shame on you, Mom.
Because
Shame
all of
on
your
you.
stories I'm allowed to share.
Yeah, I know. But Ashley say shame on you. Yes. How dare you talk about that type of personal thing? Like,
Right.
oh my gosh. My kids, my friends all tuning in to my mom hear me talk like, yeah, right. your friends are not paying attention. So
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
oh,
So, I have a question. So, I get this a lot. When we're talking about reintegration and moving forward and having maybe some issues going on, how long do you give? And that's a loaded question because we all are on different levels and different paces anyways. But that's the thing, right? Like people will ask, well, my kiddo is really behind in math and dad came home and I've given it, 3 months. How much longer, before I enlist maybe some outside help? And so how do you decide when you ask for outside help and when do you just keep plugging along and hope that it keeps going when the train keeps moving?
That's an important question.
it is.
It's a big question. And so I'm going to first say it depends, but then I'll give you some specifics. So let's say that learning was this beautifully smooth process prior, and then dad comes home, and that's when you started noticing the struggle. Then I would say give it a few weeks. And if things don't start to normalize, then that is probably an emotional behavioral health issue. And we might want to get some counseling, right? That to me sounds like that's not a learning struggle, right? Because things were going okay prior. Okay. Let's say things were not going okay prior. Let's say that learning has always been a struggle and the wheels fell off the bus when, dad came home during reintegration, and now it's even more of a struggle, right? My guess is that's a learning struggle compounded by emotion dysregulation, right? But if we can address the learning struggle, then that lowers the frustration about the struggle that our child is having, because you better believe if we're frustrated, so is our child.
Right.
So then that means maybe you need cognitive training, cognitive assessment, something that will address the underlying cause of that struggle. And then the third scenario would be things are going pretty well, but your child is struggling with a specific content area or unit. Then that probably just means you need to outsource that content or that unit, right? Either you are struggling with it as well, right? Like, oh, calculus is really kicking you hard. You might need to outsource calculus. It gives your child a break from you and your frustration, but it also gives you the opportunity to assess, was it just an instructional gap, right? Was I just not very good at imparting knowledge about calculus? Then great, problem solved. You pay a tutor for a few months, good to go. Or just log on to Khan Academy and see if they can do a better job than you can, right? Like outsource that a little bit.
Exactly.
And it helps you diagnose the issue, right?
Right.
Again, in conversation with your child, I noticed that you're really struggling with this unit. You weren't struggling before. What do you think is happening here? Well, Mom, you can't teach calculus, right? Or I hate calculus, right? Like it gives you the opportunity to get some insight into what's happening.
That's why I raised my hand. Like, that's me.
Right? I sent my kid down the street to the community college for calculus. No, I'm not going there. I have a PhD and I'm not going there. So I don't like calculus is not my thing.
Yeah. And homeschooling's not about you, the parent or parents, teaching every subject. It's about getting the opportunity in front, the resource, wherever it is. And if, recognizing that this is not your thing. You don't do this well. So get help, right?
Yeah, and that helps prevent
down
burnout.
The street if you need to, right?
Right. That helps prevent burnout.
Yes.
It does. And I think, another aspect to all of that is, when a deployed spouse comes home and you are a homeschooler and you're like, man, calculus this is hard for me. This is hard for our kiddo. And then that spouse comes in and is like, well, I was excellent at math. I'm going to dive in here and, be the, it's almost like that bad cop, good cop, Mom can't teach calculus, but I can, and I'm home now. And then that kid is like, wait a second. Nope, I don't even want to learn because it's coming off of, that, well, if you can't do it, I can do it. And I've been gone. So let me, go in there. And sometimes it's a positive experience, but sometimes I think they're coming home from a deployment and they don't know how to act. So,
and they might be suffering from some mental health issues too, that they need to work through, especially if there's some PTSD involved, and they might not need a task that's going to spin them up at the moment either.
Exactly.
Right? So that is something like, again, you need to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with all of your family members before you outsource that to that family member, right? Again, it might just be easier, even if that one parent knows calculus, it still might be timing wise better to hire a tutor for that right now. And we say that in a way that honors that other spouse. Hey, you just got home. You need some downtime. I don't want to burden you with this conflict, right? And so I've just hired a tutor for this. Hey, but the next one, all you, right? Like, so that can feel like a gift.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And
And then,
it
yeah,
goes right down to communication as well. I mean, you
yes,
just have to,
Right.
I think that's our theme today, guys,
Yeah.
is just
absolutely.
communication.
Yeah. And I think laughter is incredible medicine
Mhm,
and really builds connection. And
mhm,
so you can ask any of my kids what my worst subject is, and they will all tell you in unison geography. I have
mhm.
zero spatial sense, so I can't picture where things are on a
Uh-huh.
globe. I just can't. And so we make fun of ourselves so that then the whole family can laugh with us about that. And so rather than it being, hey, you can't do it, but I can,
Yeah.
it's hey, let's sit down when we decide we're homeschooling our kids and
Yeah.
say, hey, what are our strengths? What are our weak areas? What can we laugh about?
Yeah.
Who wants to do what? Who's interested in doing what? What would be life-giving to us
Mhm.
and what would be soul sucking to us?
Right.
Right. And
Yes.
we laugh about that together, right? So
Yeah.
that it is, again, it's a collaborative discussion.
I love that. Life-giving. That is, oh yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Deep, deep, deep. We have a few that have joined us in the chat. And so Kathy Carbout says hindsight is 2020. Definitely would have changed some things. I think that was her comment a while ago when we were talking about, things that we learned that, I said bring my kids back home so I could do better. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then we have a question that's come in from Andrea. It looks like, yeah, is there a list of outsources available to homeschools? So I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'll leave that. Dr. Amy, can you
Yeah.
respond a little
So
bit?
so there's a really cool um website called opened.co.
Okay.
Opened.co, and it's Matt Bowman who created this. It's open education, and so what he's done is he's curated all of these resources, free, low cost, and premium, right? And it's not what he's offering, right? He's curated from everything that's available out there. And
Gotcha.
so you can log in, you can browse it, you can join them. Anyway, that's a really neat place to see a
Yeah.
lot of resources in
Right.
one spot.
Got it. Got it.
So I would definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Opened.co. He has a book as
Okay.
well called Open Ed or Open
Okay.
Education, something like that. Matt Bowman.
We'll definitely get that and make sure that our listeners have access to that too. I know MHA has been working really, really hard. Shout out to specifically Rita Roberts, but all of us. But Rita has really done an amazing job of tapping into resources and saying, hey, do you see us? We're military families and we're homeschooling, and can you support us, and can you even provide a discount? And she's been really, really good at it. And so we do have an amazing list of resources. A lot has been sent out in our newsletters, but we are pivoting from putting so much of the links and content in a newsletter because it was getting bulky, right? We're just so excited. Hey, here's a link, here's a link, here's a link. Because they're all good, like World Books, Scholastics. I mean, USA Science. It's just a lot. So they will live on our website. So you can definitely, Andrea, reach out to us at militaryhomeschoolers.org because we have quite a list already. So that would be good.
And
So
I would recommend going to your state homeschool conferences
good. Yeah.
and going to the exhibit hall
Yeah.
because it's this explosion of resources
Yeah.
in the exhibit halls. And we exhibit at all of the big conferences, LearningRx, because we are one of those resources, right? We
Yeah,
do this.
exactly. Yeah, you all at one. Yeah, LearningRx.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's why we're here and having this great conversation with you. So we appreciate you all's investment in us as an organization, but specifically the military homeschooling community. So definitely thank you for seeing us and supporting us and
Yeah.
taking the time to be here. Maritza says the hardest thing was extended family wanting to see everyone right after he got back. how do we set those boundaries to allow time to reintegrate? Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a golden question. I think
Yes,
everybody that has
yes, you
military
get the golden
experience
ticket.
struggled with that.
Charlie the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so it comes down to a couple of things, your family dynamics and your family values. And so you know better than anyone what those family dynamics look like. So there are going to be some people who, again, feel extremely supportive and grateful for the help and support and interactions that come with visits from extended family. So my husband loved when my parents came when he would get back from a deployment. He loved it. It gave time for us to go out on dates or, go away for a night while they watched the kids to enable us to reconnect as a couple. But just the dynamic of not having to be on 24/7, right? Like that extended family gave some cushion there, right? Like to help meet the demands of what was happening throughout the day so that I didn't feel like I didn't get to just hand children back to him, right? Like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But there are many families where that is not a gift. And having in-laws come to visit is not a gift. And that just would cause stress. And so you have to know the dynamics of your family, number one. I think you have to communicate really openly. Yet again, we're going to talk about communication really openly with your returning spouse. Do you, hey, your parents, my parents, your sister, they all want to come. When would be a good time to tell them? Do you want them here right away? Should I tell them to wait? Right? Like have an open conversation about it. And then we have to be honest with the extended family and say, hey, come, but maybe stay at a hotel or come, but maybe recognize that it might be too much and we might have to cut that visit short, right? Like we got to communicate really well with everyone.
Yeah.
And I know that if you're OCONUS, then that's not even always going to be like, you can't say, yeah, come, but we might send you home early, right? They just spent $4,000 on plane tickets. And so that would mean the pre-planning process needs to be that much more explicit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, our families who are OCONUS, and that's a challenge, a very unique challenge. And so I'm glad that you addressed that.
Yeah.
There's as we get to a close here, the good cop, bad cop dynamic, like that comes up frequently. One parent, the parent that comes back is trying to like reinsert themselves, into like discipline and routine. And like, maybe it's just been like, we just eat, I don't know, maybe you had family sit down dinner at a certain time, but now you're just trying to survive. Right. And now, dad's back as an example, and dad's like, what happened? Like, we used to gather at, dinner table, and you're just like, yeah, we did. And I do believe in that, but I just had to survive. It's like, how do you, that dad saying, well, not wanting that dad to feel like the bad cop, right? Or, you're the good cop because you let people eat at whatever time. So anyway, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So again, I think that starts with how we define our family values at the very beginning of having a family, right? Long before deployments are taking place, when we decide that we are going to have children, we need to sit down and say, what do our family values look like? What do our parenting values look like? Like, what do we value as a family? What do we want? When we think back on raising children, what do we want our children to remember us for? Right? Like, what do we want to be able to say was our legacy as parents? And then every parenting decision we make needs to be through that lens, right? It's that consistent with our parenting values, or does that move us away from our parenting values? And if it moves it away, then either we need to shift our value a little bit or we need to make a different decision. And so that way, we're doing things the same way most of the time. right?
Mhm.
And if we drop the ball and want to eat on the couch one night, then we need to clearly, while dad's gone, we need to clearly say, hey,
Mhm.
this isn't what we value for family dinner time, right? Like we
Right.
sit around the table, we have these conversations, but tonight we're going to call this couch dinner night, and we're only going to do it one Thursday a month, right? Like, so that
Yes.
it's very clearly just this one-off once a
Right.
month, that we're not violating our values, but we're making an exception occasionally just for fun.
I like that. You're not violating the values. Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Again, intentional planning,
Yes.
communication. Wow.
Yeah. But we have to work
Yeah.
really hard to be consistent. Kids need consistency.
Yes.
But here's the thing, consistency does not mean the same. So our routines need to stay as consistent as possible. Our values have to be consistent, but that doesn't mean that mom has to do it exactly the same way that dad does. We're our own person. We have our own personalities and our own style of communicating. And as long as that communication is
Right.
aligned with the values that we both believe in together,
Right.
right, then it shouldn't pit us against each other.
Yes. That's good. That's good. So, as we get like right down to a close here, I did want to just kind of mention there are times when parents do need to consider the outside support, and we talked a little bit about that for when you need to get outside. Uh, observation assessments are all for your children, but also just for yourself or for your family, like counseling, maybe there's tutoring services and all. And there are some trusted resources within the military community that are available that like we work a lot with school liaisons and with Military Homeschoolers Association and just kind of encouraging our families to recognize that they also serve military homeschoolers and the chaplains. And obviously, my husband was a Navy chaplain, retired now almost 4 years, but they are available and they are sworn to confidentiality, obviously. And so there's other professionals. So just be aware there's the MFLEX, the military family life counselors. There's a variety of resources and tap into like your organization, LearningRx, definitely, right? So just want to mention that as we bring to a close, and I want to give you a chance if you have what would you say for yourself, Dr. Amy, is the most important takeaway that you would like homeschool parents to remember about reintegration? Any final words?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to reiterate the importance of reaching out to your chaplains, because 80% of people who are struggling with emotional and mental health typically visit clergy first,
Mm-hmm.
because clergy are uniquely positioned to know
Mm-hmm.
what resources are out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only can they provide spiritual support, but they also know, okay, this is beyond what I can help with, but here's where we can get you some help. And
Right.
so, and again, it is confidential. So I would definitely second that recommendation for sure. But in terms of the takeaway from today, I think communication,
Mm-hmm.
honest, open communication between spouses
Mm-hmm.
and with our children is the number one key to surviving and thriving in deployments and reintegration.
Love it. Love it. And Ashley, you have anything as we come to a close? Anything?
I think that's Amy said it perfectly. I
Yeah.
think that's as far as special needs goes. I mean, as a parent, yes, reach out to all of those people. But if you have a kiddo in speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, those are
Mm-hmm.
really good resources for you as a parent as well,
Mm-hmm.
because they can see your child in a completely different light. They have the resources that can, plug you into other things that may be needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that, may not be, or even pediatricians for that matter.
Oh yeah.
You can tap into some of those unconventional
Mm-hmm.
resources for the mental health that maybe you wouldn't have thought would be your number
Mm-hmm.
one as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Those are definitely good points. So we are at our end of an amazing conversation. Like I have learned so much and this has been really good. So let's back together and moving forward. Reintegration challenges and solutions for military families has been really good. I'm so excited that you were able to join us, Dr. Amy. Thank you very, very much. And Ashley, always a joy to be on the stage and platform with you. So if you're not following Military Homeschoolers Association, then please follow us. This is our podcast, as I mentioned at the beginning, base to base. And so we have amazing content, amazing guests that we would love to get in front of you all because we really believe that they will be of an amazing resource to you. So definitely, please consider subscribing here to our channel. There's a little bell called the notification bell. So just because you subscribe doesn't mean you'll be notified. So you need to subscribe and you also need to click the bell so you get notified. We also have our Facebook, our Instagram, our LinkedIn accounts that are Military Homeschoolers Association. So we've kept the name across all these platforms so you can find us as well. And if you're watching later, please put in the comments hashtag replay, or if you're listening later on socials, definitely do that. And so thank you so very much again, ladies. This has been really great. And thank you for all of our guests and in the audience that have joined us. And we look forward to more of these opportunities to dialogue. Thanks so much.